مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صلوات عليكم. Maybe today is the day where we have to begin by congratulating ourselves and giving tabrikat on the birth anniversary of someone who is known as the hero of Karbala. He is the brother of Zainab, the beloved uncle of Sakina, and the flag bearer of Hussein bin Ali, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam. May this occasion be Mubarak for all of us. I would like to discuss 2 points from the life of Hazrat Abbas, especially in relation to his mother, in order for us to understand the importance of, the environment in which he was raised. We have to keep in mind that when, for example, when you look at the munajat, which was recited just before the mahfil began, where we seek the tawassul of Hazrat Abbas. When we talk about it, we have to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran, He talks about a concept where He says, should I inform you of a tijarat, of a deal between me and you? And the deal which takes place between human beings and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, iman is there, good deeds are there. But when you talk about shahadat, there is no good deed beyond it. We have the ahadith where we are told, whatever you do, whatever good that you do, there is always something better that you can do. It means there is nothing, no end. We cannot say, okay, I have reached to the left, end of the line. No. Whatever you do, there is still something better that you can do in that. Except our Imam say when it comes to shahadat. And of course, if after shahadat you can't do anything. But the important thing is that when you talk about shahadat, you are actually giving up yourself, your whole life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is nothing greater than that you can give to Allah. And when you make that deal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the right of tawassul and shafa'at. And therefore, not only the Anbiya and Mursaleen and the Aimma and the Ma'asumeen, even the Shuhada have the right to intercede between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They become shafi', they are in between. They are the middlemen between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't worship them, but they are the link between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, one of the titles of Hazrat Abbas is Babul Hawaij. Somebody who totally submitted himself to the will of the Imam of his time. Totally did not even allow his emotions to take over. When he goes to that level of submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by submitting to the Imam of the time, he indeed is known as Bab al-Hawaij. Because Allah gives him that right to intercede. He gave everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, well, I give my marazat and my marzi to you. And so when we talk about this concept of tawassul and shafa'at, about the imams, especially when we talk about the shuhada, among the shuhada, the status of Abbas bin Ali is unique and has its own position. Our fourth Imam says, on the day of Qiyamah, all the shuhada will get their own special status. But the status of Abbas would be such that even the other shuhada of Islam will in a way have this, envy, that I wish I also had gotten that status that Al-Abbas bin Ali has. And this is because he totally submitted to the will of his Imam as a reflection of submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat. Especially keeping in mind that what he had been told from his childhood, that what is the purpose of him coming to this dunya? Why did Amir al-Mu'mineen marry Ummul Baneen? And that's the point I would like to, you must have heard this story many, many times. But it's important to just learn some of the lessons of seerah from this example of Amir. That when the time came that Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to marry Ummul Baneen, this was a very unique marriage. It was not just a marriage of a normal kind. There was a purpose behind it, a special purpose. But Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to have courageous sons in that marriage. And so what does he do? In this matter, he refers to his older brother Aqil and consulted him, and he says, this is what I would like to do. And this is where the question comes up. People will say, well, he's Amir al-Mu'mineen. He has access to ilm al-ghayb. Why does Ali have to go to his brother Aqil in order to seek advice and consultation about marrying a woman, a lady who will bring courageous sons for him in this dunya? And this is, I think, very important to understand, that although he is a ma'soom imam, he has access to ilm al-ghayb, but as a principle, the imam does not use ilm al-ghayb for his personal life. When they are hungry, the Ahlul Bayt during the early days in Medina, they were poor. But they didn't just do like that and have, food. If they wanted, they would have done that. But they don't use the power of mu'jiza and the power of ilm al-ghayb for their personal use. And this is the biggest of test and trial for them. Allah gives them this power, gives them that knowledge, that you have the ability to know the ghayb. But remember, you don't use it for yourself. Only when there is a need to prove your truth, that you are the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the matter of religion comes in, that's where you use your power of mu'jiza and the power of ilm al-ghayb. I used this example previously also, even in my book known as Shiaism, Imam and Vilayat, where I had a section on ilm al-ghayb. I remember in Dar es Salaam, during my childhood there, some of the people who used to work for the government, those days at least, when things were still good, before this, socialism of Chinese came in, some of these people were given government vehicles. But right on the door of it, there would be a sticker which says, for official use only. So you are a government officer, you are being given this car, but this is not for grocery buying for your family. This is for official use only. Now, this is not an appropriate example, but just to make things simple for people, I'm saying, when the imams and the anbiya and mursaleen get this power of mu'jiza and the power of ilm al-ghayb, there is a sticker on it, for official use only. And so this is where we see that when Amir al-Mu'mineen has this intention of getting married to a lady who will be able to give him courageous sons in this dunya, he seeks the normal way of reaching to the point by referring to his elder brother, not only because he was an elder of the family, but because Aqil was a Nassaba. Nassaba means somebody who was very well familiar with the various tribes and families in Hijaz and in the Arab world. So he knew, the families, he knew their good qualities, the weaknesses, the strength in various families. And so that's where Amir al-Mu'mineen refers to his own brother, the older brother who is also a Nassaba, an expert in genealogy and the characteristics of various tribes and families around. And this is where, Aqil basically refers to the family of Al-Kilabiyya, the family of Ummul Baneen, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Let me digress slightly here just to connect this example of Amir al-Mu'mineen with our own personal life. Ali has this intention of marriage with a very unique perspective in it. What does he do? He goes and seeks, consultation and advice of somebody who knows that. This is where we are told that when it comes to essential issues of our life, if we don't have expertise in that, we have to go and find, seek advice from those who know. When we go and do important things or buy important items, we always are very careful about it. Whatever we want to do, we do the homework, we find about it before we get into it. And when we talk about personal relationship, marriage is a very unique relationship, unlike any other relationship. All other relationships are by destiny. Nobody can choose who will be the father or the mother, or the brother or the sister, or the uncle and the aunts, or the grandparents, or the cousins. You don't have a choice. You didn't exist to make that choice anyway. And so there's no question of choice there. The choice is only in one relationship, and that is known as marriage. And that is why this relationship is unique. And so when we talk about the uniqueness of this relationship, we have to make sure that before we get into it, we do the, homework. And this is where the issue of finding out about the other becomes very important for both sides. And, this is where the issue of consultation and mashwara, istishara comes in. Our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, in his Risala al-Huquq, where he talks about the moral rights of the people, 50 different kinds of moral rights. One item he has is the right of the person seeking advice from you. And he says, number one, you have to be sincere in giving the advice. Number two, give him the advice that you would follow yourself. And number three, be graceful and gentle in giving the advice. And finally, the Imam says, if you don't have an advice for that person because you don't know that issue, you're not familiar with the situation, and if you know somebody who knows, then at least, refer him to this other person who knows. This is also half of the khair that you have done in referring him to somebody who can help him and guide him better. And so when we talk about the issue of marriage, this is also very important. And this is very normal. And this is what the seerah of Amir al-Mu'mineen is showing to us, that when people get the proposal or think about sending in a proposal, before that, they kind of, do some investigation. They ask around. There's nothing wrong about it. What is important here to know is that if somebody comes to ask you about a boy or a girl, because you're thinking of proposing, you as the advisor have the obligation of portraying the true picture of that person. So the problem is some of our people get, this is ghibat. Remember that yes, ghibat is haram. It is something even so severe that Allah mentions that in Quran, in Surah Hujarat. But remember, they are exception to the rules. In fiqh, when they talk about ghibat, they say this is one of the major sins, but then they are exception to the rules. تجوز الغيبة في موارد. There are situations where doing ghibat is, which means talking about the character of a person, even if those things which are not known to the people, is permissible in certain cases. Number one, for example, we are told if a person is al-mutajahir bil-fisq, somebody who doesn't really care about religion, publicly is drinking. If somebody doesn't care about religion and publicly does things which are haram, then he doesn't have that immunity known as, issue of ghibat there. Number two, a mazloom is allowed to complain about the zalim, even if the zulm was done in a hidden or concealed manner, because he is mazloom. Otherwise, no mazloom would be allowed to go to court, to make a claim against the zalim, unless, it was done something publicly. And then the third example, and this is I'm using intentionally just to say that this is not an old riwayat or something, this is actually directly from the writing of al-Sistani. One more example is when نصح المؤمن فتجوز الغيبة بقصد النصح. When a mu'min comes to you seeking advice about somebody else, he wants to get into partnership with somebody. And maybe you were the former partner of this fellow. He comes to you and says, I want to make business with him. What do you recommend? You say, okay, he's a good mu'min, mashallah, this and that. But otherwise. Don't be, the whole purpose of him coming to you is because you know about him. You have dealt with him. You are allowed to say, don't be his partner. There is no issue of ghibat there. But the example here, كما لو استشاره شخص في تزويج. Very clearly, Ayatollah Sistani says, for example, if a person comes and seeks advice about a proposal that he or she has got, then you are فيجوز نصحه وإن استلزم إظهار عيبه أو عيبها. Where he says then you are allowed to advise that person, even if that means you are disclosing his hidden defects or weakness in the character of that person, he or she. بل يجوز ذلك ابتداء بدون استشارة إذا علم بترتب مفسدة عظيمة على ترك النصيحة. Not only that, when that fellow comes and asks advice from you, you can initiate that process. If you find out this person is going to get married with so-and-so, and you know something about them truly, you are allowed to basically be frank in letting that other person know about it. And so when we talk about this issue of seeking advice and consultation in these matters, we have to remember that if somebody is coming and asking you for a marriage proposal about somebody, then it's a matter of life for that person. They're going to spend their whole life. And there, you have to be very sincere and frank in giving the correct advice at that time. Salawat alayhi. What about taking the name of the person you are intended to propose to some of these, astrologers or Amil Sahibs? There's so many commercials in this Desi newspapers in Toronto. They have online service also. Of course, you have to keep your credit card ready. In Islam, this is not allowed. It is haram to believe in astrology in that way, or palmistry. To learn is one thing, but to believe in it is something else. And that is not permissible. And this brings me to the issue of istikhara. Is istikhara an essential part in deciding the marriage? How many of you, the men, would say yes? Raise your hands. It's allowed today. Everybody's afraid. Only one there. Two. Huh? There is a tradition now. People look for istikhara. I'll tell you one thing. Of course, this istikhara is a vast subject by itself. But in our tradition, it has been emphasized. Al-istishara qabla al-istikhara. You need to find out the issues in a normal way. Seek advice of those who know. Do istishara before you go for istikhara. And there is nothing which says that it is mustahab or recommended. Once you know the facts, there is no need for istikhara. Istikhara is only when you do not know. Or even when you did istishara, consulted the people who know, still you are confused. That's where istikhara is an option. So remember that, there is nothing which says that marriage must be made on the basis of the istikhara. Sometimes people, especially in South Asia, our own community, Shias, they say sometimes, istikhara becomes wajib. Once you see it, you must do it. And I say, suppose you were thinking about marrying somebody, and I tell you it's good, and you think this is wajib, just look at the other side, and that was not good for them. So where is your wujub going to go? You can't just make up all these things, about istikhara is wajib or this and that. No, istikhara in the first place is an option. In marriage, it is not necessarily recommended. You have to do the istishara, you have to do the background check yourself normally, ask the people who know. And if you are still confused, then one way is to say istikhara. And finally, especially if you come to me for istikhara, the istikhara for marriage doesn't mean that this is a guarantee that the marriage would be successful. Because when I deal with the cases of divorce, many times I hear, Maulana, but we saw istikhara on this issue. Who told you that istikhara for marriage is a guarantee that everything will work okay? It just means that the relationship was good, but you had to work for it. You can't just say istikhara chaya tha to sab kuch theek hoga. Nahi, you have to work for it. Allah gives you mawadda and rahmah, because Allah in Quran has guaranteed every marriage has mawadda and rahmah, so I don't do anything. No. You have to play your part to maintain the element of mawadda and rahmah in your marriage. There is no guarantees. Especially if you come for istikhara with me, there is no guarantees on the issue of marriage. Salawat alayhi. Because I was told once, Maulana, aap hi ke paas aaye the istikhara ke liye. When they came for talaq. So we have to realize that yes, there is an option of istikhara, but istishara is there. You go and ask those, do the background check, and then you have work. You have to work hard to make that marriage successful. Salawat alayhi. Now when we talk about this issue of having a person like Aqeel, very easily available to Amir al-Mu'mineen, who knew the community, knew the tribes and the families around, what about us? In the eastern part of the world, we had kind of a network, informal, circle of relatives and friends and the community. In the Western world, we don't have. This is one of the biggest challenges. Unfortunately, none of the organizations in North America that I know have really taken up this challenge. There have been talks, even in Toronto Jamaat. Even 10 years ago, we went through a process, but then somewhere it just fizzled out. And so I would like to basically put a challenge in this mahfil in the name of Hazrat Abbas to the elders of the community, especially to the senior groups, among the men and the women. Make this your own task. This issue of matchmaking for the young people of our community. This will be a sadaqah jariyah that you do not even realize how long this will be there. It will be in your account long, long after you have left this dunya. As long as that marriage is there and the generations continue, you will be part of that sawab. And it's easy for seniors probably to look around. Divide numbers of families. Who has sons, who has daughters. Those who know the others, they can see, if there is compatibility on both sides or not, and then they can introduce them. This process of getting involved as a matchmaker between a mu'min and a mu'mina has the reward. Let me give you just 3 hadiths here. One from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam. Where he says, "Man zawwaja a'zaban kana mimman yanzuru Allah ilayhi yawm al-qiyamah." If you become the middleman, a matchmaker, to get the single ones married, you will be among those whom Allah will look with favor on the day of Qiyamah. Another hadith from Ummul Baneen himself, where he says, "Afdal al-shafa'at." The best of shafa'at. What is shafa'at? These Wahhabis who believe that shafa'at means to assign partners to Allah are totally ignorant. Shafa'at means the intermediary. They are not partners of Allah, they are partners of us. And Ali says, "Afdal al-shafa'at," the best process of becoming an intermediary, and tashfa'a bayna ithnain fi nikah hatta yajma' Allahu baynahum. The best shafa'at is where you become the middleman to bring 2 individuals in marriage until Allah brings their union together. Then we have one hadith, third one here, from the 7th Imam, where he says, 3 people will be under the shadow of the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah, when there will be no shadow other than the shadow of Allah's mercy. رَجُلٌ زَوَّجَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ أَوْ أَخْدَمَهُ أَوْ كَتَمَ لَهُ سِرًّا. A person who gets a Muslim married to another Muslimah, or the other way, or serves him, or keeps his secrets concealed. And so we see there is great sawab in this. And this is where I'll, put a challenge to the seniors. If they can really take this task on themselves, especially the junior seniors, who can even do the going around, leg work in order to get data, details. It's already being done informally. But if you spread that work among yourselves, I think we can achieve the goal, which is one of the important needs of our communities in North America. But I'll say one thing. Don't look for the shortcut of having a mixed gathering, boys and girls together, let them find themselves. No. It's not that the goal has to be right, even the means to reach to the goal has to be right. That is the problem of our people. They say, at the end the result is good. Well, how you reach to that is the problem. What is the difference between the politics of Amir al-Mu'minin on one hand and Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan on the other hand? Was Muawiyah more clever than Amir al-Mu'minin? No. The only problem was that Ali did not only look at the objective and the goal, he also looked at the means. Whereas Muawiyah didn't care about it. Whatever he wanted, he will get it by any means that he wants, whether it is valid or not. So when we talk about the serious issues of our, social needs of the community, it's not only the goal which is important, even the means to reach that is very important. And if we go back to the traditional way, we can still succeed because we have not tried formally that method. I don't know of any example of any community in North America who have done this before. Salawat. If the sawab of getting a mu'min and a mu'mina married, becoming the middleman, is so great as we see about ordinary mu'min and a mu'mina, think about this sawab that Aqil got. When Ali comes to him, he is the matchmaker for whom? Amir al-Mu'mineen on one side and Ummul Baneen on the other side. The level of sawab of Aqil, we cannot even comprehend that. He is on that highest level there in that way. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen came to Aqil, based on his knowledge, immediately he says, Akhi, أين أنت عن فاطمة بنت حزام الكلابية? O Ali, don't you know about Fatima bint Hizam al-Kalabiyya? The characteristics that you are looking for, you will find in her. فَإِنَّهُ لَيْسَ فِي الْعَرَبِ أَشْجَعَ مِنْ آبَائِهَا. Because there is nobody in the Arab nation whose ancestors are more courageous than the ancestors of Fatima bint Hizam. Salawat alaik bara'at. Fatima bint Hizam is Ummul Baneen. So Ali then sent Aqil with a proposal. He goes, and this Kalabiyya tribe was living outside Medina. He goes there, met the father, Hizam bin Khalid bin Rabi bin Ali Walid from al-Kalabiyya tribe. When the father heard the proposal, that Ali has come with a proposal for his daughter, Aqil has come, and the proposal is for Ali. According to the historians, hasha wa basha. He just couldn't contain his joy. Who wouldn't want a son-in-law like Ali? And so he goes inside, and this is again important. Father has the wilayat, but you need to consult. And so he goes inside, talks with the family, with the wife, and then he returns back outside with a smiling face to Aqil, and the marriage took place, and the mahr was the same mahr which was decided for Fatima az-Zahra salawatullah alayha. There is one narration which I read first time just today, and I wanted to share with you. It's a very beautiful one. One of the titles of Hazrat Abbas is Qamar Bani Hashim, the moon of the Banu Hashim. And the term Qamar is used in Arabic, Farsi, Urdu language, especially in poetry, to represent beauty. So when we say Qamar Bani Hashim, it means that Abbas was a very handsome person. And it's true, physically, yes. But this narration actually gives us the basis of that, which is very interesting. And according to this narration, when Aqil presented the proposal of Ali for the daughter of Hizam bin Khalid, he said, let me go inside and consult with my family. He goes inside, but before he went into the room where his wife was there, he heard the daughter, Fatima, talking with the mother. So he stopped there. And he said, I heard her saying to the mother that I saw a dream last night. And what I saw was that I was sitting there right in the middle of a very beautiful garden, surrounded with trees and sheds, and with streams flowing around. This was night time, very clear sky. I could see the moon and the stars, and then all of a sudden I saw the moon separated from the sky and came down and was placed on my lap. And then after that I saw 3 other stars coming and joining that moon. And in that vision, she says, I heard somebody saying something. And when I listened to it carefully, it was a poetry, where she was being told, Bushraki Fatima bisadati al-ghurar, salasata anjumin wa zahir al-qamar. Good news to you, O Fatima, about these leaders of the good people, the 3 stars and the shining moon, which are on your lap. Abuhum, referring that these are your children. Abuhum Sayyidun fil khalqi qatibatan ba'da ar-rasuli kama ja'a fil khabar. And the father of these 4 children is the best of the people after Rasul, and this is what has come in the revelation. Salawat alayhi wa And so she saw this dream where there is a moon and 3 stars. And this actually refers to her 4 children. And that moon is basically Abbas. And so when we say Qamar Bani Hashim, this was also in a way, realization of the dream that she had seen. And this is where the father realized that the proposal which has come is actually the realization of the dream that my daughter saw last night. Salawat alayhi wa जनाब अब्बास के विलादत की मुनासबत से जनाब अब्बास के वालिदा के बारे में और अमीरुल मोमिनीन से जो शादी हुई है उसके सीरत के पहलू को हम कनेक्ट करना चाह रहे थे अपने ज़िंदगी से, ताकि हमें सिर्फ तारीख़ के वाक़यात न मिले बल्कि सबक भी मिले और हम रिलेट कर सकें इस सीरत और इस सुन्नत अहले बैत। एक और इंटरेस्टिंग बात जो नजर आती है, रसूल और अली के दरमियान बहुत सी सिमिलैरिटीज हैं उनकी जिंदगी में। हमने माह रमजान में भी इस पर बहुत सी बातें आपके सामने पेश की थी। उसमें से एक यह है कि रसूल की भी बहुत सी अज़वाज थी, अली की भी बहुत सी बीवियां थी। इसमें भी दोनों की सिमिलैरिटी है, लेकिन एक फर्क दोनों में। फर्क यह है कि एक और सिमिलरिटी दोनों में यह है कि दोनों की जो पहली बीवी थी, दे वेर ऑलवेज द नंबर 1 एंड द फर्स्ट पूरी जिंदगी में दोनों की, चाहे रसूलुल्लाह के लिहाज से जनाब खदीजा हो या अली के लिहाज से जनाब फातिमा हो। यहां पर सिमिलैरिटीज अली और रसूल के दरमियान खत्म हो जाती है। एक फर्क आता है कि रसूल ने बाद में जब शादी की और उनकी जो सबसे जवान बीवियां आई, उस जमाने में जनाब खदीजा का इंतकाल बहुत साल पहले हो चुका था, लेकिन वो जवान बीवी जो है जब भी रसूल की जबान से खदीजा की तारीफ सुनते थे उनके दिल में ये बात बर्दाश्त के काबिल नहीं होती थी। वो जलसी का मादा जरूर था। यहां तक कि खुद बुखारी में भी है, दूसरे वाकयात में भी है कि रसूल 1-2 बार तो बड़े गुस्से में रिएक्ट किया है रसूल ने। इस मामले में हम कहेंगे कि अली और रसूल में फर्क है, और इस मामले में अली इज लकीयर देन रसूलुल्लाह, कि जहां रसूल के दिल में खदीजा की जो हैसियत थी वो आखिर वक्त तक शी वॉज नंबर 1, चाहे और बीवियां बाद में आए। लेकिन रसूल की बीवियों में ऐसी भी थी कि जिनको जनाब खदीजा से मोहब्बत नहीं थी या हसद ज़्यादा थी। लेकिन इस मामले में अमीरुल मोमिनीन की किस्मत जो है रसूल से बेहतर है, इसलिए कि फातिमा थी और यकीनन वो अली के दिल में हमेशा उनका मर्तबा वही नंबर 1 रहा है। लेकिन बाद में भी जो अज़वाज आई हैं, चाहे वो मोहम्मद हनफिया के वालदा हो, जनाब अस्मा बिनते उमैस हो या जनाब उम्मुल बनीन हो, इन सब के दिल में जनाब फातिमा ज़हरा के बारे में जो मोहब्बत का जज्बा नजर आता है वो रसूल के अज़वाज में बात नहीं मिलती है। सलावत पढ़ने और इसीलिए जो नाम जो है ये भी अहम है। जनाब अब्बास की वालदा का नाम फातिमा, लेकिन उनके दिल में फातिमा ज़हरा का जो एहतराम था और जो मोहब्बत थी आले रसूल से, उसकी एक दलील यह है कि जब वो अली के घर में आती हैं, शुरू में उन्होंने कहा कि अली आप मुझे हमारे कुन्नियत से पुकारें। पहले ही से ये कुन्नियत जो है उम्मुल बनीन की मिली थी। ये उनकी एक दादी थी जिनको उम्मुल बनीन कहते थे, तो इनको भी बचपने से यही कुन्नियत दी गई थी। تو مجھے ام البنین کہہ کے پکاریں، میرے نام سے نہ پکاریں، اس لیے کہ جب آپ میرا نام لیں گے تو بچوں کو اپنی ماں یاد آئے گی، اور جب ماں کو یاد کریں گے تو شاید ان کے دل میں جو ہے غمی کا پہلو آئے، لہذا ہم نہیں چاہتے ہیں کہ میرے نام کی وجہ سے فاطمہ کی اولاد کو دل میں غم کا جذبہ آئے۔ اور اسی سے یہ بات سمجھ میں آتی ہے کہ بہت ہی احترام کرتی تھی، یہاں تک کہ وہ ہمیشہ حسن اور حسین اور زینب و ام کلثوم کو اپنی اولاد سے بھی بڑھ کے سمجھتی تھی۔ مقصد مصائب پڑھنا نہیں ہے، لیکن ہم ایک مثال پر ختم کرنا چاہیں گے کہ جناب عباس میں جو آپ جو کچھ دیکھتے ہیں، جذبہ محبت دیکھتے ہیں، وفاداری کا جذبہ دیکھتے ہیں، قربانی کا جذبہ دیکھتے ہیں، یہ صرف علی کی تربیت کی بات نہیں ہے، یہ علی کے ساتھ جناب ام البنین کے دودھ اور خون کا اثر ہے۔ اس لیے کہ اولاد میں جو کچھ ہے وہ ماں کی تربیت، ماں کی فطرت اور نیچر کا اثر آتا ہے۔ اور اس لیے ہمارے یہاں ایک مشہور عرب شاعر نے ہمیشہ کہا ہے، اور اسی پر ہم یہ محفل کو ختم کرنا چاہیں گے کہ لا عضب اللہ امی انہا شربت حب الوصی وغذتنیہ مع اللبن، کہ خداوندہ میری ماں کو کبھی عذاب میں مبتلا نہ کرنا، اس لیے کہ میری ماں نے جب ہمیں دودھ پلایا تھا تو دودھ کے ساتھ علی کی محبت کو بھی مجھے پلایا ہے۔ یہ ماں کے دودھ کا اثر ہے، ماں کی تربیت کا اثر ہوتا ہے۔ لہذا یہ آپ جناب عباس کی وفاداری کی جو مثال دیکھتے ہیں، یہ ماں کے اس فطرت اور نیچر اور کردار کے عکاسی ہے، یہ امیج ہے جناب ام البنین کے اس وفاداری کا۔ چونکہ آخر میں بھی آپ دیکھیں مجبور ہیں ہم اس واقعہ، اگرچہ وہ غمگین واقعہ ہے، لیکن ایک دلیل کے طور پہ ہم ختم کرنا چاہیں گے کہ یہ جب قافلہ واپس آیا ہے اور جب بشیر نے جا کے مدینہ میں آواز دی ہے کہ لوگ واپس آ گئے ہیں، عجیب و غریب خود اس کی روایت ہے کہ جب ام البنین قریب آئیں تو پوچھتی ہیں کہ یہ بتاؤ کہ میرے حسین کیسے؟ عباس کا نام نہیں لیا، اپنے 3 بیٹوں کا نام نہیں لیا، بشیر بار بار عباس کا نام لے رہا ہے، ام البنین بار بار کہہ رہی ہیں بتاؤ کہ میرے حسین کیسے ہیں۔ تو یہ جذبہ تھا، یہ وفاداری تھی، یہ محبت تھا ان کے دل میں، احترام تھا فاطمہ اور آل فاطمہ کے سلسلے میں۔ اور اس لیے یہ جو ہم کربلا میں جو قربانی دیکھتے ہیں کہ جناب عباس نے اپنے بھائیوں کو پہلے بھیجا اور اس کے بعد خود اپنی قربانی پیش کرتے ہیں جس انداز سے، یہ صرف علی کی کردار کی بات نہیں ہے، بلکہ ماں ام البنین کی کردار اور تربیت اور دودھ اور خون کا اثر ہے۔ اور اسی جذبے کو ذہن میں رکھتے ہوئے انسان اگر آگے بڑھنا چاہے تو یقیناً ہمارے لیے جناب عباس اور جناب ام البنین ہمارے لیے اسوہ حسنہ ہیں۔ اور اسی جملے پر ہم اس محفل کو ختم کرنا چاہیں گے۔ خداوندہ ہمارے گناہوں کو بخش دے، ہماری توفیقات میں اضافہ فرما، اس قلیل بات کو قبول فرما، ہم لوگوں کو صحیح معنوں میں جناب عباس اور جو شہدائے کربلا کی سیرت اور ان کے مثال کو اپنی زندگی میں امپلیمنٹ کرنے کی توفیق عنایت فرما۔ خداوندہ جتنے ظالمین دنیا میں جہاں جہاں ہیں ان کو نیست اور نابود فرما، مظلومین کو اپنے حفظ امان میں رکھ، خصوصاً بحرین کی جو شیعہ ہیں امام کے ظہور میں تعجل فرما۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔